as vice president.
That's correct. So that they could get him out of the way so that Daddy Bush, his little homosexual in the closet, nation-wrecking, Constitution shredding, U.S. Treasury embezzling, AWOL, cocaine-snorting misfit, wouldn't have a real opponent.
I'm going to say something about Al Gore for a minute.
That didn't work, but they eventually had to steal the election, obviously.
I'll say something about Al Gore, okay? The Clintons tried to frame him in 1995 with the Buddhist temple thing. Then they brought it back up again, and actually, Clinton, it was a set-up operation involving that car dealership and the ambassador, got the name of the islands down there, involved all that stuff.
I know what you're talking about, the Seychelles, how do you say that again?
Seychelles Islands.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that frame-up. That
involved all those stooges. But thing was, I'm going to reveal something tonight that I haven't revealed before. During 1991 and 1992, I was hiding, or 1992, excuse me, and 1991 through 1992, I hid from the FBI for an entire year when they had an illegal warrant for my arrest and they were going to try to kill me. Then they made me a political prisoner for 10.5 months and charges dismissed. Now, during that period of time, I was talking directly to Ross Perot. Everybody knows the name Ross Perot, the billionaire out of Dallas, Texas, who at the time was running for President of the United States. I was giving him information. If you go back into speeches and you look and you see, he was talking about the robbing of the savings and loans, and HUD, etc. That was the stuff that I was giving him. Ross Perot and I had a 45-minute talk one time about the direction the country needed to go in. He says if we can get Bush out of the way, allow Clinton, he says, to go in, Clinton will be impeached for his role in Iran-Contra, and we'll have a clean president, Albert Gore. That comes out of the words of Ross Perot.
Yeah, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. You know why it didn't work? Because Al Gore had tried to have Mark Rich arrested. He and Francois Mitterrand, the president of France, William Sessions, the former FBI director, they all had a warrant to grab Rich, who was a bagman for Clinton and Bush. They were going to bust him along with Ambassador Leo Wanta, who you're familiar with, Stu.
Yes.
And they were going to grab him as he crossed over into France from Switzerland to gamble. He likes to gamble every now and then. And he was tipped off that he was about to be grabbed by none other than the Prime Minister, I don't believe he was the Prime Minister at the time, but the current Prime Minister, known radical Zionist, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Israeli Mossad, Lorraine Fine. So what happened is that the Clintons had already began in the early 90s, as soon as they took office, to run a rogue intelligence operation out of the White House tied to the Mossad to countermand their own CIA. That's why Colby eventually was murdered. And, of course, when Mark Rich was not arrested, that allowed them to continue to make use of these stolen funds back to Iran-Contra. And the stolen funds from what? That were derived to him and the French government and from the Russian Ruble operation. Assisting in the theft were the British, naturally. You see, folks, this is what occurred. And this is how Vince Foster was also working as an FBI informant and had decided and had told Webb Hubbell in a meeting the weekend before his murder on the eastern shore of Maryland that he had enough with Clinton and his crap because he was too close to, quote, the Bush gang. So what happened to Vince Foster? Goodbye.
Got whacked.
They then made the decision that Gore would be stopped, whatever it took to keep him out of the White House. It wasn't easy. Gore fought them hard. He persisted. He didn't quit. They couldn't frame him. We got hold of Ken Starr's entire investigation and stuck it up Ken Starr's ass. Deal room, the mean Arkansas crap. That he
even testified, when was it, 1998, during the Clinton impeachment trials? in secret. They wouldn't let it come out in congressional hearings.
No, the
He
2000.
laid it wide open. He laid it wide open and said that George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Clinton both had committed treason and sedition against the United States of America.
Yeah, the 2000 election theft, of course, turned the country into a significant event. It's part of the ongoing coups. We mentioned the Kennedy, Nixon, Carter. We can then mention, of course, the 2000 election, which was the final coup d'etat in the recent times. That, of course, reversed the will of the American people. Stole 5 states using choice point software in Florida to keep people off, taking people off the voting rolls illegally. They were turned away from the polls of at least 30,000, most of them African Americans in Florida. The use of the Nassau script, which allowed them to corrupt the Voters' News Service, allowing voting results from West Virginia, Missouri, Tennessee, and New Hampshire to be corrupted, allowing them basically to steal 5 states, Bush did. The program for Florida was Gator. The program for Gore's home state, I believe, was Rocky Top. So Bush stole 5 states. And he lost that election by probably a lot, even a bigger margin than the 500,000 votes, a lot bigger margin. So that was the coup d'etat. The only one that has to watch those results again if you have them on tape, to see what was happening. Dan Rather's like the cat eating the canary announcing this crap that night. States flipping around like a game show. You remember that, Stu?
Yeah, I do. They were all flipping around like a game show.
I mean, it's you know, but most Americans don't look at it, well, what's going on here? Oh, well, we don't know what's going on here. Now, you know, where are we back to the present? Gore's family has been threatened for years. They threaten his daughters and everybody, constantly. And apparently, Al Gore values his family's safety, and I can understand that. I mean, he's being threatened from both sides of the box. He knows too much, too, obviously. They don't want him in front of a grand jury. They're all gone. But Al Gore is Al Gore, and he has to deal with what he's doing now. I say, God bless him. I understand. Where we are right now, as I just pointed out, we've got Obama, who is a puppet and a stooge, who is basically doing the wills of the banks. He hasn't done a darn thing about getting the banks to loan money in this country. All he's doing basically is enriching them. And now trying to run a health care bill, which, by the way, would give the government access to everything you've got, your fingerprints, your personal medical records. They could enable a new massive espionage program with that. That's why they like these government programs like that, because that gives them the ability to know everything about you. And at this point, what we know about them, which is the government, I wouldn't give the government a dime to do anything.
They're too corrupt to continue, Tom.
That is correct. They say too big to fail. I say to them, you are too corrupt to continue. And there can only be one way out. It's either have them or us. One walks, one doesn't. I'm walking, Stu, aren't you?
I'm walking, and I'm fighting if they want a fight. They want a confrontation. I'm prepared right along with millions of Americans, Tom. I know they're out there, and I know many of them. I know back in the mid-'90s there was probably 25 million people at the time ready to pick up arms.
I say bring it on.
Since the new wave has hit, which was Oklahoma City, then another wave of people woke up at 9/11. Tremendous amount. That's the new crowd out here, should we say, the new patriotic Americans. And they realize how bad it is. I believe we have 1/3 to 1/2 the American people that will pick up arms and defend their country if necessary. And ladies and gentlemen, you better listen to what we're saying, because the day is at hand. The hour is at hand. It could happen tomorrow. And I'll tell you what the government's prepared to do. They know there's going to be an uprising, and they know that once the unemployment numbers hit 26%, it's in the teens. Once it hits 26%, people are going to be starving. They're going to want to get